Wondering how you can not pay taxes like this guy or this guy? Well, in this video, I'm going to show you how you can legally not pay taxes leveraging this one strategy that usually only the wealthy or real estate investors are aware of. So stick around to get all the secrets. See you on the other side. All right, guys, like I mentioned in this video, we are going to go over some of the strategies on how you can leverage real estate as one of the best tax havens to not pay taxes legally, like some of those people that I mentioned earlier before. Now, with that being said, before we jump into it, let me quickly introduce myself if this is your first time here. My name is Patrick Long, I'm a licensed real estate agent and investor out here in Hawaii and have been for nearly a decade. If you guys want to talk story, whether it's about real estate, investment, or I guess apparently taxes, feel free to reach out to me. I got my contact information right here, or you can directly DM me on any of my social media platforms. Now, with that being said, let's go into how you can legally not pay taxes or at least lower your tax burden significantly. Now, before we jump into it, I need to have a quick disclaimer and let you guys understand I am not a CPA, I'm not an accountant. Take this information with a grain of salt. Always double check with your CPA or accountant, but these are some standard procedures of what real estate investors and savvy real estate owners utilize to lower their tax burden. The first one is known as the 1031 exchange. Now, what this is a tax deferral and basically allows you to use an investment property that you purchased and defer any capital gains. Instead of giving it to Uncle Sam, you get to roll it into another property. Now, how this basically works is, let's say you buy an investment property for easy math, let's say it's for 500 grand, and then you hold on to it for a couple of years and now it's worth 600 grand. So you have $100,000 in potential equity. Now, let's say that we put all expenses to the side and you have $100,000 worth of equity. If you were to sell that property, you generally would have to pay at least 20-30% of taxes. So that's 20 or 30 grand that would have to go to Uncle Sam. But there's this beautiful product called the 1031 exchange where you basically can tell Uncle Sam, hey, I am going to pay you. I prefer not to pay you right now. Can I pay you later? And basically I can roll this bill down the road and kick it down the road. And I'm probably going to make you more money because you're going to tax me later when I've built a larger portfolio. And Mr. Taxman says, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. You've done a great job in investing and we'll allow you to roll those funds into another bigger property. So then when we do come around to pay taxes, we'll actually get more from you. So it is a way for you to defer the tax. You still will eventually have to pay it. We'll talk a little bit about how you could possibly not pay it at all. But that's the reason why the government allows you to defer this tax, because in their mind, they're helping you create more homes for other people who need to rent. And also in their mind, they're thinking, oh, we're going to get a bigger chunk of change because we're helping this guy buy a bigger house, which means you'll get larger appreciation, larger gains, and a larger tax bill. Now, there are some important rules that we need to know about the 1031 exchange, so let's briefly go over those. The first one you have to understand is the 1031 exchange is for investment properties only. This is not for your primary residence. This is from one investment property to another investment property, so that's the first rule. The second rule is that you cannot touch that money. You actually have to use a third-party intermediary or a third-party company that basically will take the cash that you made and hold on to it without you touching it and then put it into the next property, and you cannot touch that money. It's very important that you understand this, so make sure that you talk to a 1031 company. They can walk you through the process, but it's really important that when you are selling that property and buying the next one, that you never touch that money, because as soon as you do, it becomes a taxable event and you can't use the 1031 exchange. The third thing you need to understand is the timeline. So when you are doing a 1031 exchange, you need to sell one property and buy another property, generally between 45 days for you to actually find the property that you're going to buy, and or 180 days for you to actually close on that property. So there's lots of ways where if you're selling a property and you sold it, so basically the timer starts from when you sold it, you have 45 days to find a property. Now, if you find a property in 45 days, but you don't close on it, that's okay. You can find another property. You just have to inform that third-party company that's facilitating the 1031 exchange. And you do have up to 6 months or 180 days to close on a property. So it's not the biggest deal. If you don't find one within that 45 days, you can get an extension. You just have to make sure that you close on a property within 180 days of closing on your first investment property before rolling it into the next one. The next rule you need to understand is that you need to exchange it for like. That means that if you're buying real estate, you need to buy more real estate. You can't buy real estate and invest it into a boat or a collector's car. It has to be like. So that means real estate for real estate. Now, you can purchase commercial real estate, land, duplex, triplex, things of that nature. But again, just check with your 1031 specialist on what the rules are. But that's generally the rule of thumb. It has to be like. Just basically sell real estate, buy real estate. That's basically the rule. And the last important rule is that you need to spend that money that you made in a property that's of equal or greater value. So if you bought it for 500, sold it for 600, the next property you need to buy needs to be purchased for 600 or more. Now again, check with your 1031 specialist. There's ways that you can actually split it up and maybe buy multiple properties, but that's something you're gonna want to discuss with them. Now that's the 1031 exchange. Now the bonus part is you're probably asking yourself, well, hey, I still have to pay this bill eventually. And yes, you do, unless you die. And if you die, you actually can pass those proceeds and all those properties, and that tax bill basically gets written off. So your kids get to actually take on all those properties without any tax burden. So that's the secret of using the 1031 exchange and deferring it, but then eventually not having to pay it. You basically just build this portfolio for your next of kin, or building some sort of generational wealth where your family will not have to pay that tax bill. You build it for them. Now keep in mind, guys, you can take loans out on your properties so that you can actually pull cash out of them without having to sell them and buy more properties. And a loan is a non-taxable event. This is how the wealthy get wealthier and don't pay taxes. The second tax benefit to real estate is being able to write off your interest, so that when you get a loan, you generally have what we call PITI, which stands for principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. Now you actually get to write off the interest. So let's say you have a $500,000 loan at a 6% interest rate. That basically equals out to $30,000 a year you're paying in interest for that loan. Well, guess what, guys? You get to write $30,000 off on your taxes. That's another beautiful benefit of owning real estate, is being able to lower your tax burden by having this expense of owning the property and having to pay interest on it. And the third thing you get to write off, which is part of that PITI, principal, interest, and taxes. You actually get to write off your property taxes every single year. So whatever you pay in property taxes, you can also add to your expense list and lower your tax burden. So you can imagine if you got 3, 4, or 5 properties and you've built this portfolio, you've got all these expenses you can really utilize to lower your tax burden. This is again how the wealthy get wealthier and don't pay taxes. They just own a bunch of real estate. Now the last tax benefit is what we call depreciation. And there's a bunch of different ways you can calculate this. Again, talk to your CPA or accountant, but I'm gonna give you the general summary of how it works. Now, the way that the government sees your asset, let's say you buy a brand new home, brand spanking new, it just was built, it has 27.5 years of life in the eyes of the government. And the reason why they say this is because obviously when you own something, it depreciates in the sense of the lifetime of how long that home will last. Now, again, homes have been built in the 20s and 30s, they're still standing, but in the eyes of the government, that roof that you bought, that roof is not as nice as it was last year. So you can depreciate that. You can depreciate the appliances that are inside the home. You can depreciate the flooring, the outside of the home. So let's say the value of that property, for easy math, is $275,000. Well, guess what? For 27.5 years, you basically get to write off $10,000 each year, which is 275 divided by 27.5. So that's $10,000 you get to write off every single year on that specific property. And again, you can imagine if you've got 5 properties, all worth 275, you're writing off 10 grand every single year. That's 50 grand off your expense line item. So once again, real estate is a beautiful product for lowering your tax burden and possibly not paying any taxes. All right, guys, well, those are all the tax benefits when it comes to real estate. Again, double check with your CPA. I'm not an accountant or CPA, so double check with them on anything that I say. I'm just some guy on YouTube, but I am a licensed realtor. So if you do want to talk about real estate, feel free to reach out to me. I got my contact information right here, or you can directly DM me on any of my social media platforms. And I highly suggest you check out these 2 videos right here, which highly focus on real estate investing out here in Hawaii. With that being said, I'm Patrick with PatrickVolneyRealty.com, powered by eXp Realty. Hope you have a beautiful day, and I'll talk to you soon. Aloha.